The Mavericks get molly-whopped in the Motor City by Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. We'll break it all down coming up next on the Dallas Mavericks postgame show. Hey, what's up, DLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Corella. We, of course, are DLS Mavs. Really appreciate you joining us here on our post-game show. Unfortunately, the Mavericks fall tonight on the road to the Detroit Pistons, 117-102 to snap their two-game winning streak. Cade Cunningham tying a season high with 40 points tonight. Daniel Gafford was able to have a double-double with 5 blocks in this game. Kyrie Irving led the charge offensively with 28 points, but too many turnovers tonight for the Mavericks as the Pistons are the ones that come up victorious tonight in the Motor City. We will break it all down here for you over the course of the next hour. We'll have our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, will join us a little bit later on in the show as we get that much closer to the NBA trade deadline. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here as well. But, gentlemen, the Mavericks were looking to close the month of January on a high note. Unfortunately, Cade Cunningham and the Pistons had other plans, Tim Cato, as he was simply dominant, getting to anywhere he wanted to on the floor tonight and put on a show in front of his home crowd tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you can frame this game any way. You won, obviously, in the fourth quarter. Dallas's offense, kind of let what they were doing all night, and it looked difficult. It looked really difficult for the offense all night, but they were keeping pace with Detroit. And in the fourth quarter, it just fell apart. Nobody off the bench was working well. All the starters, even the starters, were not particularly good. Kyrie did his best, but this was not, one of his most brilliant games over the past month. But really, the reason the offense, was having to do all that catch up is because Dallas couldn't guard on the perimeter. They couldn't stop anybody. From defensive stopper PJ Washington, who kind of leads the defense along with the centers. I thought, he was guarding Cade on a lot of possessions, and it just looked like Cade could get to wherever he wanted to go. And Cade, he really is a lot like Luka in some ways. It's not like he's burning. It's not like he's just flying by him with the first step where it's like, okay, well, that's just type of player that, you don't expect PJ to be the best against. But it wasn't just PJ. I don't want to single him out. This was the whole team. Nobody could get stops on the perimeter. And yeah, Luka coming back is gonna help the team. It's gonna help the offense. Absolutely. It's gonna help everything as players kind of get back into, the roles in the hierarchy that they're supposed to be, that they're meant to be in. But the defense is not going to be fixed, unless these guys just get better. Make sure that they stop guys on, don't let them blow by. Don't let them get into the paint as easy as it's happening right now. Like, that's something that's going to have to change, as the team does prepare for the imminent return of Luka, not on this road trip, but hopefully very soon after. It just wasn't good enough. It was absolutely not good enough. And if you just want to write it off as like they didn't have it tonight, I think that's okay. But the defense has not been that good for a couple weeks now. This is not the first time that we've seen them really struggle to get stops on the perimeter.
I think it's not unfair, and it's not unfair to point out PJ. Like, PJ was one of many Mavs that struggled to defend on the perimeter tonight, but the unfortunate reality of the situation here is that in the Mavs starting lineup, PJ Washington is the only player I expect to be able to get a stop on the perimeter. I don't expect Kyrie Irving to get a single stop ever. He was getting work tonight. I gave up hope on Spencer Dinwiddie as a defender like 5 years ago. And Clay like tries, but he's just not very shifty. He's not very mobile. He can't stay in front of shifty guys. He can't stay in front of quick guys. And he's not strong enough to hold his own against bigger guys. So really, that leaves PJ as the only guy in the starting. And of course, Gafford, they don't want Gafford switching on anybody, rightfully so. So That leaves PJ
5
as the
blocks.
one guy.
5 blocks, but why do you think that he was blocking
why did
so
he have
many
so many
shots
blocks?
at the rim?
Yeah. Well,
Two of those
I'll
came
tell
in
you.
transition.
I'll tell you why. Because the Pistons got 59 shots in the lane.
Yeah.
59, and there weren't many 12-foot fadeaways. These are coming at like within 5 feet, you know. And so whenever there are that many weaknesses, whenever there are that many targets on the floor, it's really, really tough to defend. And whenever you're confined, I'll have some pictures later. Whenever you're confined and restricted to defending in drop, you have no chances of forcing turnovers. You have no chances of forcing difficult passes. So everything just comes really, really easy, in addition to having a bunch of weak perimeter defenders. So, this was just there was just pressure coming on the defense from every single direction. And the only guy that's capable under good conditions of putting up any sort of resistance is PJ. And Cade Cunningham took him behind the woodshed tonight. That was really, really impressive from Cade. He was fantastic.
Yeah, just speaking more generally about getting stops on the perimeter. I mean, obviously the idea is that you have players on the bench who are able to provide that or will be able to provide that. Dante Exum obviously making his return, his debut, but it just wasn't
gassed in a lot of moments tonight.
It was not quite ready.
Sure.
This is clearly he's going to take some time to get up to speed. The hope is that when he does, that is a good perimeter option for you. Quentin Grimes is the other guy who's supposed to be able to do that, and he did not play well in 10 minutes, but neither did Najee in 22 minutes. Neither did Spencer Dinwiddie in 23 minutes. I would have played Quentin Grimes more. I would have probably thrown him back out there just to see if you can get that two-way effect. Quentin Grimes has had some quiet first halves and been better in the second half. He's made I just had it pulled. I think he had 18 straight games with a made three. Snapped tonight. He went scoreless, but that's, I don't know. I would have tried that a little bit more, but I will say I do think it looked like the whole team didn't have it tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that there's any lineup combination that would have saved this. It just has to get better. This has to be better, and the hope is that it's not, maybe there's help on the way. We'll see. We'll know by this time next week whether Dallas does or does not acquire anybody at the trade deadline. But the hope is that Luka coming back just relieves a little bit of pressure for everybody in the offensive end, and they can get back to really investing on the defensive end. Because, the reason Dallas got back into this game, the only time that they were getting stops at any point is when they went to a zone defense in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. And you just can't play that over and over and over again. It worked for about 4 or 5 minutes, and Dallas was able to get a few stops. But eventually teams are going to figure out how to play, solve a zone and figure out how to play against it. That's not a long-term solution. It's a fun gimmick. It's a useful gimmick, and it got Dallas back into the game, got them within 2, but it just wasn't enough. It was not enough, and it was not going to last the entire game. Eventually, at the end of the day, you have to, as a professional basketball player in the NBA, you have to get stops. And eventually, Jason Kidd hopefully will feel more empowered to play more of his better defenders when Luka's back. That's the other crucial part of this.
And tonight, they just weren't able to get enough stops when they needed to. As Tim mentioned, the Mavericks were able to pull within 2, but the Pistons, which we'll get a little bit more in depth during our next segment, they were able to rip off a 12-5 run, and the Mavericks had a scoreless drought in the fourth quarter, or I should say a very few points drought in that fourth quarter that really sunk them in this game. A few numbers just to get you caught up on what this game looked like from a statistical profile. With the Mavericks loss tonight, they dropped to 26-23 on the season, 12-13 on the road. They finished the month of January 6-10, and to your point, Tim, this team looked like a team that has been playing as much as it has the 16 games of January, obviously without its best player in Luka Doncic, and feeling what has been the lack of depth in a lot of ways with no Derek Lively, obviously no Maxi Kleber, Kyrie Irving missing some time as well, and a team that just looked tired pretty much, especially in that fourth quarter with the inability to get some points on the board. As we mentioned, Kyrie had 28 points in this game, leading 4 Mavericks in double figures. PJ Washington with another double-double with 22 and 13. Daniel Gafford, his 5th game this year with at least 5 blocks in a game. He finished with 16, 10, and 5 blocks. But the numbers tonight, gentlemen, 2 that really stand out are the numbers 27 and 18. The Pistons scored 27 points off of what was 18 Mavericks turnovers tonight. The turnovers have been a problem all season long for this team. Detroit just simply was winning in all categories. They were plus 15 in terms of the bench points and plus 12 in second chance points as well. And Bobby, when you're finding yourself turning the ball over as much as the Mavericks did tonight, Detroit took advantage of it by scoring the 27 points that they did in this game.
Yeah, I really thought that the game, there's a couple turning points that we'll talk about, but I thought one of the key moments of the game was at the beginning of the fourth quarter whenever Cade was out and Marcus Sasser was running the show for the Pistons, and he had like 3 floaters in a row. And it's just like, dude, just what are you doing? You know, you have to. Their offense was getting clamped up all night. Like the Mavs could not get any separation. Every single ball handler on the team committed the worst turnover of the season, just like one after the other. It was like a calamitous affair. So the only way you're going to win is by taking some of the fight back to them on the other end of the floor, by playing some defense. You know, Dallas turned it over 16 times. They forced 6 turnovers. Marcus Sasser, okay, who is the pride of DFW. He's from here. He's a local guy. I talked to him at the Combine actually a couple years ago. Really, really nice guy. I'm rooting for him. He had 10 points. The Pistons tonight were +6. By the time Cade checked back into the game, they were +6 in the Cade-less minutes. At that point, they were only +3 with Cade on the floor. Looking at the state of their roster right now, missing Ivy, it's kind of like a Jokic thing. You have to win the minutes whenever their best player is not on the floor, whenever their son around which everything else revolves is not in the game. And Marcus Sasser cooked them. And so, like, it's one thing to lose to their all-star. It's another thing to let a bench guy beat you. And then across the way, you know, the guards that were matching Sasser's minutes were Dante Exum, who turned it over 2 straight times, Quentin Grimes, who mysteriously got benched, Jaden Hardy, who didn't have anything either. And then I guess Najee, if you count him as a guard, he was 3 for 9 and -11. So, you know, there was no firepower. There's no firepower.
And didn't get much of it throughout the course of the night. For a team that scored 117 points, the Pistons just went 9 of 35 from downtown. That's 25%. Mavericks went 11 of 33 from distance for the 33% mark that they had. But at the same time, the Mavericks were just turning the ball over too much, and really in crucial moments, their offense really let them down as far as this game is concerned. With the win for the Pistons, they improved to 24-24 on the season, back to an even 500 and 11-11 at home for them through their first 22 games in Detroit.
I'm just watching Marcus Sasser's baskets right now, and I'm just getting so angry.
Well, he was 0-5 from 3. Like, he was
so
in the
mad.
fourth quarter, he was trying to shoot the Mavericks back into the game. Like, some of the shot selection from Sasser was really not great.
I think during a huddle, the Mavs were like, you know what? Like, let's take away that horrible shot and let's just give him layups. And see what happens.
Because I didn't
Maybe
understand.
he'll miss those too.
Yeah, because he was terrible from the 3-point line, but he was able to get some things at the rim. Before we take our first break, Tanner, let's get to our first super chat of the evening here. Shout out to Martin the Polar Bear, where the Mavericks office was just as cold as where he is right now. Let's go with the $5 super chat. Quote, "We lack athleticism. We get torched by athletic teams that get out in transition or get downhill into the paint. Same issue with Indiana, Portland, Houston." You could throw the Pelicans in there from the other night, because, my gosh, Zion Williamson was getting downhill all night in that game, much like how Cade Cunningham was in this game.
It's very true. I mean, that was one of the things that before the season I said, like, I love their roster, and I still do when healthy, but the Mavs are older and they are less athletic than they were last season. And so they're a little slower. They're a little more ground bound. And, you know, teams that can get after it a little bit are going to give them problems, you know, and that was definitely the case tonight. Now, granted, I think if you have a little more professionalism on offense, like Luka wins them this game, I think, in his sleep. Even with the bad Luka game, they win. And probably, with Lively, I think a little more dynamic play at big, I think they can win too. But as it stands tonight, like, they did not stand a chance.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, you don't have to be the most athletic team to win the finals. I don't think anybody looks at the Boston Celtics and thinks, you know, of hyper athleticism. Obviously, they have a lot of athleticism, but so does Dallas. You know, every NBA team has athletic players. But yes, it is a weakness. It is something that, you know, they just don't have. And, you know, maybe almost what we're saying or what people are thinking, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, athleticism translates to stops on the perimeter if you're a defender, you know, a lot of the times. And they don't have that. They don't force turnovers. They're bottom 10 in turnover and forcing turnovers as a defensive unit this season. So all of that stuff it's not the end of the world. I think Dallas is still obviously very, 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 very good. But if we look at the margins of what this team is lacking, athleticism, turnover forcing, point of attack defense, I think all three of those things have a lot of overlap to them.
Let's take our first break here on the DLS Mavs post-game show. When we come back, what the turning point was of this game as we examine a little bit deeper dive into the fourth quarter. Plus, later in our show, our national NBA insider Marc Stein will join us to get us ready for the NBA trade deadline just days away. All that and more coming up next year on the DLS Mavs post-game show. But first, I got the perfect gift for you if you're a passionate sports fan, and you got to go to www.iceshaker.com to get it. With Ice Shaker, created and used by the Gronkowski brothers, it's sold over 1 million bottles. They've changed the game with workout bottles, and this bottle is the one that you've been looking for. And you've got to go to iceshaker.com. Then use code ALLCITY25 at checkout to save 25% on your order. Customizable as well. You can send the logo, or you can check out their custom shop for any logo that you want to customize your favorite bottle. Patented twist in the agitator as well that breaks up powders but is silent when you shake it, instead of that annoying ball that you got to shake up when you hear it when you're trying to get your protein shake together. The agitator works as a strainer as well and makes it very solid for tailgating as well. If you're looking for a tailgating cup, you can use Ice Shaker as well. Order your team-branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use code ALLCITY25 for 25% off your order. Ice Shakers, show your support for your teams with the best branded workout bottles in the game and in the market today. Shout out to Ice Shakers.
It was an ugly, hideous, disgusting, regrettable loss for the Mavericks tonight on the floor. But off the floor, your boy got a big dub on Sleeper. And if you played along with me, then you did too. Tonight was a protected pick on Sleeper. So I played $10. And if I lost, I just get my money back. But I won. I won $40, baby, because I thought that Kyrie would get at least 30 points plus rebounds plus assists, and Cade would get at least 40. I thought Daniel Gafford would score more than 15.5 points, and I thought that Tim Hardaway Jr. would hit at least 2 threes. I knocked out 3 of those 4 bad boys by the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
And then Gafford got me a 16th point early in the fourth. And with Sleeper, the more you play, the more you win. So I got a 4 times multiplier on that $10 protected play. And guess what? I won $40. If you think you know ball and want to play, download Sleeper today. Use promo code DLLSMavs. Whenever you deposit $5, you can play $5 to get $55. Free plays doesn't have to be your first one. Could be anyone. Check out the terms of use for details.
Appreciate all of you joining us here on the DLS Mavs postgame show. Coming up in our next segment, we break out the Corella Strader as Bobby breaks down a little bit of what happened tonight as the Mavericks fall, unfortunately, on the road. 117-102 to the Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham tying a season high with his 40 points tonight, as Daniel Gafford had a double-double with 16, 10, and 5 blocks, but not enough, as the other big man on the other side for Detroit was really good as well. Jalen Duren with 16 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 steals of his own as the Mavericks fall to Detroit.
Pretty simple explanation as to why, unfortunately.
Which we'll break down throughout the rest of our post-game show. Let's get to what we felt like the turning point was in this game, because the Mavericks were able to find themselves climbing back into this game in the fourth quarter. As we fast forward to the second half, the Pistons, who led at halftime 62-58, led by 8 at the end of 3. The Pistons actually led by 15 at 86-71 with 4 minutes left after outscoring the Mavericks what was 24-13 in the first 8 minutes of that third quarter. But the Mavericks were able to go on what was a 12-3 run to cut that deficit to 6 with $1:20 left in that third quarter. Cade Cunningham had 16 points on 7 of 11 shooting, but Kyrie Irving was able to get the Mavericks back in it, had 14 points, and played the entirety of that third quarter to give the Mavericks a chance. Then, gentlemen, as we go to the fourth quarter, the Mavericks start on what is a 6-0 run to pull within 2 at 93-91, and you felt like, okay, you built the momentum late in that third quarter. Kyrie Irving had a big period to get you back in it, and then you start off quick in that fourth quarter, and maybe you could steal one based off of the way that you weren't playing well early on. But then, unfortunately, gentlemen, what we've talked about so far, turnovers played a big part in this, and unfortunately, the returning Dante Exum was the unfortunate catalyst when it came to how the Pistons were able to respond and did so in kind there.
Kind of stretch that my dad would just pull his hair out if I was watching that game with him. Exum gets his pocket picked, bringing it up the floor by Ron Holland, and Holland dunks.
He was talking mad cash.
Oh,
afterwards.
my God. He's talking so much smack to Dante, bringing it back up the floor. And, Exum tried to, I guess, make up for his mistake by throwing a lob, and that got deflected and stolen. And then to make matters worse, he committed a foul 85 feet from the rim.
That's right.
Trying to steal. And then he got yanked. And it was like, dude, like that was that was the game. You know,
that ignited a 12-5 run by the Pistons as they led 105-96 with 6.5 minutes left.
Yeah, and at the time, Kyrie wasn't on the floor. He came in, I think, after that Exum foul, but they would have had the chance to erase the deficit and let Kyrie walk back into the game with the game tied, you know, and maybe everyone feeling a little good. Maybe the Pistons panicking a little bit, but nope, just completely. I mean, lost the thread at that point and really never turned back, unfortunately.
Yeah,
and I love Dante Exum, but that was really bad.
Yeah,
it was really bad.
Soren mentions this in the comments. You know, nobody here is slamming Dante Exum.
Sure.
We are acknowledging that he made a couple bad plays that had a pretty big effect on the game. It's his first game back. He hasn't played in 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played
something like that.
He didn't even play a preseason.
No.
Yeah, he didn't even play in preseason, so he hasn't played in 7 months. And the reason he was out there is because nobody else on the bench had emerged definitively as the player who should be on the court. So I get it. I get where kid's coming from. You know, try another option. And typically, Exum was a very ball secure point guard, as I remember. You know, like, you know, this is one of his strengths. This is very out of character for him. And so because it's so out of character, of course, we're going to chalk it up to, you know, he hasn't changed as a player. He just hasn't been on the court in a long time. So everything's fine. Everything's fine. But bad sequence mid a game full of many bad sequences.
Yeah.
The kinds of turnovers they were committing, KG. It's like,
it was just, I mean,
holy smell. Like, Clay committed some of the nastiest turnovers I've seen in my life. And I'm like, dude, you know better that you're better than that. You're better than that.
Yeah. And
better than that.
You hope when 77 comes back, some of the ball security will get better for this team from an overall standpoint. But unfortunately, you know, the injuries have been a big story, obviously, for this team. But for me, gentlemen, that's been one of the biggest stories all season long is the Mavericks' inability for a good portion of the season to really value the basketball. And it really stung them again tonight. We mentioned it earlier, giving up 27 points off of what was 18 total turnovers in this game. And there was another crucial moment in that fourth quarter as well. So, look, the Pistons are up 101-94. The Mavericks are trying to climb themselves back into this game. But at the same time, this came with 7-18. The Mavericks didn't challenge an obvious out of bounds off of Holland's leg. And you thought, okay, if you challenge that play, you could steal a possession and maybe see what happens on the other end of the floor.
Bad.
But yeah, to not challenge there, I thought was just a terrible mistake on the Mavericks' part, because if they do get that challenge and win it, I think they would have won it. Who knows what kind of happens maybe from there, but they didn't even give themselves a chance to do that. Not to say that it would have necessarily changed the outcome of the game entirely, but I thought that at least you got to find a way to get some kind of possession there, and they just didn't take the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bad blown call too. I mean,
yeah, it should have been gotten right the first time
there.
for sure.
Like, I mean, at live speed, we're like, oh yeah, it's an easy call.
Yeah, and the referees unfortunately missed that. Where you've heard that before, New Orleans. Unfortunately, the game got away from them from there because the Mavericks, gentlemen, went on what was an 8-minute span where they scored a total of 5 points from the 10-13 mark of the fourth quarter to the 2-minute mark of the fourth quarter. They scored a grand total of 8 points. They went from being down by 2 to being down by 19 before Kyler Kelly's bucket came with $1:58 left in the game. So you couple that with the turnovers that they had in this game, and then just what was a near scoreless drought over an 8-minute span. I mean, you're not going to win games turning the ball over the way that they did, but also Tim not putting the ball in the basket at all, scoring 5 points in 8 minutes, not going to get it done in anybody's NBA game.
Yeah, I mean, Kyrie has played a lot and has saved Dallas's ass a bunch of times over this month, but was not his best game at all. And 9 of 23 shooting overall. He's since the first game he missed with his back injury, that he missed a game, came back, missed another one, and then was out for a stretch, or maybe came back again and then was out for a stretch. He's shooting under 33% on threes. So that 3-point shot just has not quite been there like it was before. Before that, he was 44%. So that number has been falling quite a bit. And when he doesn't have the three going, it can be tough. I mean, it's a lot of work. It is just an enormous amount of work for Kyrie Irving without Luka on the court to consistently over and over and over again, generate 2-point shots, beat his man off the drive. There's a reason why that 3 is so important to him, obviously. I'm saying obvious stuff here, but 37 minutes tonight. So it's just going to be tough, when he doesn't have it going and you're going up against a very competent team like this. I mean, this is obviously a very, this is a below 500 team, or was before they won. But obviously miles different than Washington, a game where Kyrie had 5 points in the third quarter and Dallas was just blowing them out. All the offense was going to, start with Kyrie, or so much of it, especially, wasn't a Spencer Dinwiddie night either.
Yeah, I mean, those other guys like Dinwiddie plus Exum plus Hardy had as many turnovers combined as they had made shots. And if you throw Quentin Grimes in there, they had more turnovers than made shots.
Yeah.
So like Kyrie's like a one-man army out there. I mean, it feels like we're watching Luka in 2019 and KP's out. It's like, well, what more can you ask of the guy? Like he's literally out there 1v5 sometimes.
Yeah.
Now taking nothing away from PJ, and Gafford had some moments, but yeah, I mean, it's just they need other guys that can do anything with the ball. It's just
Najee Marshall's not doing it either of late.
Oh man,
no,
he's been going through it for a while now.
Yeah, what's his?
Still love the knife around here. But,
of course.
But
of course, he was good against OKC in the win. 14 points on 8 shots, and had a pretty good game in the first game against Denver, but not a lot of standout performances offensively from him of late.
You could throw out Rolex's comment in the chat, please, at the very bottom there.
Hey, Rolex, I'll take Sunday off. I'll just stay home on Sunday afternoon. That's fine with me.
Bobby comes back and they lose.
It's fine with me. I will happily take Sunday off. I'll take the rest of the season. I'll just chill out. I'll go on a nice long vacation.
Luka Bach, yes, Gafford was very good. We were talking specifically offense, right? And Gafford had some very good offensive moments.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just said he had a good game.
Yeah.
Like he had 16 points. He was pretty good.
For I would say the second half of January, Gafford has been. I mean, he's been phenomenal. I mean,
has he been their best player in January?
PJ's had some moments.
PJ, I would say PJ and Gafford.
He's been their most consistent player.
Or
at least
especially the last 10, 12 games.
Yeah.
Gafford's been fantastic for them. I mean, he had another 10 boards tonight, another 5 blocks again for this team. He had 2 back-to-back blocks. He had one in transition that broke up an alley-oop, and then he met Sir Thompson at the summit and said, not having it here, which I thought was a tremendous block for both of them coming in transition. But they needed someone else. You had 4 guys in double figures tonight. The bench just simply was just not good enough in this game with just 18 points. Detroit's bench giving them 33 tonight. That's really a big difference in this game when you look at what they were able to get from other guys, and you just simply weren't able to get it from your bench in tonight's game. So obviously the Mavericks falling to the Detroit Pistons tonight, now 1-1 on their current 5-game road trip. It doesn't get any easier, obviously, as they get ready to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers on Sunday. They'll have a day off as they travel to Cleveland to get ready for that game on Sunday afternoon. Let's take our next break here on the DLS Mavs post-game show. When we come back, we break out the Corellustrator. Bobby's going to break it down for us a little bit in terms of some key plays and moments in this game that define, unfortunately, how the Mavericks fell to Detroit on the road. All that and more coming up next year on the DLS Mavs post-game show.
Started by 2 college buddies, Saturday Neon makes officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs perfect for your home, office, dorm room, fan cave, or bar. Check out their new Essentials collection featuring almost 50, the biggest schools across the country, and they start at only $75. We've got Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. They have other colleges, not just around the Texas area, too. Pretty sure we're just highlighting those as they're some of the big colleges around us. Unlike traditional neon, these LED signs won't break or shatter, but they still give you that classic uniform glow that you know and love. The LEDs last up to 100,000 hours, so you'll be enjoying your sign for years to come. I think that's are the signs going to outlast you? Is the neon going to outlast us?
And honestly,
100,000 hours.
It honestly might.
Head over to SaturdayNeon.com and use code DLS for 10% off your favorite sign.
Let me talk to you about Rugged Road Coolers. Rugged Road, hello, is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the very best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions, whether you're on land or water, or me trying to do this read. Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every single adventure. Perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing to tubing to camping and tailgating. These coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road Coolers. They're reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DLLS for 10% off. Again, that's ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Use code DLLS for 10% off today to use Rugged Road for your cooler needs. Mavericks fall 117-102 on the road in a Motor City molly-whopping by Cade Cunningham, who was absolutely fantastic tonight, dropping 40 points, tying a season high for him. By the way, his 12th game with at least 30 points tonight for the Detroit Pistons. Let's break out the Corellustrator right here, though, now. On the DLLS Mavs post-game show, Bobby, some plays that need a little more examining and defining how the Mavericks unfortunately fell to a really good Pistons team tonight, at least, in the Motor City.
Yes, as I used to say whenever I was streaming for the Mavs after a tough loss, hey, sometimes you got to eat your vegetables, all right? It can't all be fun and games. Sometimes you just got to eat some raw broccoli.
What vegetable was this game? Was it broccoli?
This was like the
okra,
the cauliflower that you get in those like $5 cheap vegetable trays where it's refrigerated and dry and there's like lumpy sauce that you don't trust, or like a gross dip. This is like really, really nasty cold carrots. All right,
like sliced carrots.
No, I'm talking the mini ones that you wish had like that brown sugar sauce on. No, these are the gross.
You put a brown sugar sauce on your mini carrots?
Butter?
That is the most. Okay,
right.
I know what you're talking about at least.
This is two things.
The first is a candy yams or something.
Tanner, come back.
No,
to
like
me,
the cooked ones, like the casseroles.
Okay.
So this first play is this is a really good illustration of during the broadcast, Jalen Duren, I think, got his 15th point or something, and Follow was like, he's only had one game more higher score than this. Normally, he doesn't score this much. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's obvious why he's scoring this much today. It's because the way the Mavs are defending. But this is kind of the reality that the Mavs are in as they move forward without Lively and to a lesser extent Maxi Kleber. The Mavs are kind of limited to defending one certain way on defense. And against some teams, it's not going to hurt them, but against others, it's going to make it very, very tough to win unless everybody on the team steps up on defense. Okay? It cannot just be Derek Lively making superhuman plays or Daniel Gafford making like 3 blocks of the season all in one 30-second span. So let's go to the first play here. The Mavs are playing drop coverage here. Drop is, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, I implore you to go to YouTube and check this out, but I'll try and describe it the best I can. Daniel Gafford is in the lane at the semicircle below the free throw line as Jalen Duren comes up to the top of the key to screen for Marcus Sasser, going to Sasser's right. All right, so the Pistons have Cade Cunningham on the wing, and then I believe that's Asar Thompson, who's kind of in the dunker spot, lurking in that mid-range baseline area, and PJ Washington is guarding him. What drop does is it prevents, in theory at least, it prevents the ball handler from just turning the corner, flooring it, and getting to the rim and laying it in. You are leaving yourself as the big man, as the last line of defense, and you're letting the entire play happen in front of you. What this is going to encourage is pull-up threes, long twos, or skip passes if everybody does their job. But on this play, nobody does their job correctly. So as Duren sets the screen for Kyrie, Sasser comes around the corner. We're going to go to the next picture here. I can't show video, otherwise I'll get in trouble. So Gafford kind of steps out, but he's still in a drop position where if Sasser tries to go toward the rim, Gafford can run with him. Kyrie is now preventing the pocket pass. So if Sasser was going to try a bounce pass, Kyrie could potentially make a play on it. But somebody has to tag the big man. Jalen Duren is now at the free throw line, and he's got 15 feet of wide open space between him and the rim. It could be, I wouldn't like it if it was PJ Washington.
No, it should
sometimes,
be Najee.
I know, I'll get there. Sometimes teams will leave that guy from like 18 feet out and go and tag that way, and then Gafford can just kind of like rotate over in the event of a little scoop pass to Thompson. But really, who this should be is Najee Marshall on the weak side, but he is so horribly out of position that he cannot tag. What is tagging? It's whenever a roll man is rolling toward the rim and you as a weak side defender just hit him with a little elbow, a little chicken wing. You just kind of get in his way without making it super obvious to slow him down a little bit. But that doesn't happen. So as we go to this next picture now, Sasser just has to throw it up. Gafford is trying to contain the ball, and Najee is behind the play. Kyrie is completely out of the play. And so all this pass has to do is be high enough to go over Daniel Gafford, but low enough to where Jalen Duren can catch it. And as we go to the next picture, it's just right on target, but it's easy. There was nobody there to slow his momentum. Gafford was playing drop, so he was really defending kind of nobody. His job is to prevent the layup, not really stop the ball or guard the ball. He's also not supposed to guard the roller. Najee Marshall misses the tag. Kyrie didn't get back in the play quickly enough. PJ Washington didn't really do anything. No fault to Spencer Dinwiddie. He's guarding an all-star. He's not supposed to do anything on this play. But this kind of stuff was happening all game long.
Can I ask you real quick, because PJ Washington in there near the dunker spot area, if he doesn't see Marshall come over to tag, why is he going towards Sasser as well when you're not necessarily supposed to be?
I mean, I think honestly,
could he roll over a little bit to try and prevent some of the momentum from?
At that point, you're too late. You're too late. You're probably just going to get foul called. So honestly, what PJ is probably doing is thinking if Sasser tries Gafford will either get a block or it'll be like he could get a rebound or something. But everything just happened way too quickly. And one thing I didn't mention is that whole sequence began with 6 seconds left in the shot clock. So this is the last thing that's going to happen on this possession, and still nobody did anything to slow them down, which is really frustrating. And then we're going to take a look at one more play, Tanner. This is a really good demonstration of why rebounding is a 5-man job and why communicating on defense matters so much. The Mavs so many times tonight where they're botching switches or randomly double teaming guys, blowing rotations because they're not talking. The players aren't talking. You have to talk, like right here.
But you lamented throughout the course of the game.
Yes. There's 16 seconds left in the shot clock, and PJ and Clay are both in the corner defending number 5. I think that's Malik Beasley. I'm sorry.
Beasley.
I don't know jersey numbers.
Yeah, that's Beasley.
And it's really, this is like an unfortunate screenshot for Clay, but he's literally staring at the fans. Like he's just so spaced out right now as Tobias Harris is cutting to the rim. Now, the way that this is supposed to happen is Daniel Gafford is supposed to rotate over to Tobias Harris here. Obviously, this is an emergency situation, so you have to be Johnny on the spot. Gafford needs to rotate over to Harris. Najee needs to come crash down on, I think that's Duren in there, not B-ball Paul Reed. But that's what has to happen. Well, that isn't what happens.
What the hell is Gafford looking at?
This is not supposed to be happening the way it is the real problem. But Gafford does recognize it as we go to this next picture, and he's able to cut off Harris. And actually, Tobias misses Duren for what would be a wide-open dunk. You see Najee now, this is a full second later, finally realize, oh, crap, I have to go down there and make a play or else this is going to be a dunk.
Yeah.
So as Najee now rotates down to Jalen Duren, Kyrie now has to rotate over and get to Marcus Sasser, who Najee is leaving to get to Jalen Duren. So, and Clay now has to find somebody. So generally speaking, a good rule of thumb is if you're guarding nobody, go find somebody. But whenever you're double teaming like this, there's rotation, so there's rules. So Kyrie is supposed to be the one rotating here, not Clay. But as we go to the next picture, nobody picks up Sasser. And so now he has a wide open 3. Kyrie is defending nobody. Clay's defending nobody. Najee is defending Harris, who Gafford was defending, but now Gafford's defending nobody either. So as Sasser lines up for this wide open 3, Gafford does the correct thing, which is go box out Jalen Duren. But Tanner, as we go to the next and final picture here, Gafford is boxing out Duren, but PJ Washington is not helping at all. Clay is not helping at all. Najee is not helping at all. Kyrie is not helping at all, and so this is now a 1v1, and Gafford doesn't have good position he's under the rim.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be near the block like a guy shooting a free throw, but because Gafford was so late to get over there because this was such a catastrophic defensive breakdown, Gafford is under the rim, and PJ's not helping out at all, and so Duren is able to just go out and smack it out, and the Pistons would later score on this possession. So Gafford did his best here. All right, he did his best on that possession, but there were numerous breakdowns all over the floor because of poor rotations and poor communication or lack thereof completely. and it led to an easy offensive rebound opportunity. So everybody has to rebound, especially in scramble situations. But the first play was an example of how conservative drop defenses, drop coverages, how it's really hard to force turnovers in those situations. It's really hard to limit big men, rolling big men in those situations. Like whenever
you could have used Lively in a game like this.
Yeah, whenever teams drop against Luka, you know what the big men do? They're licking their chops. And Luka's saying, he's chicken. He's barbecue chicken. Nobody plays drop anymore against the Mavs because they know it's like a one-way ticket to death.
Please don't ever do that again, by the way.
So that's the thing, though. So the Mavs are going to have to play drop, which means they are going to be in a lot of scramble situations. They are going to have to tag the roller. They are going to have to gang rebound and not just trust Daniel Gafford to pull down every single rebound, or Kyler Kelly or Omax or whoever the nominal center is out there. Everybody has to mind the details. Everybody has to pull their weight. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot more frustrating games like this, especially against the more athletic teams.
That's tremendous breakdown from our guy Bobby Carella when it comes to the way that the Mavericks were defending and unfortunately not rebounding collectively as a team. That leads to what is a 15-point loss tonight on the road as the Mavericks fall 117-102 to Detroit basketball. I had to get one of those in because I kind of like that. But coming up next here on the Dallas Mavericks post-game show.
No, we still got a few more minutes of the segment.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I was going to break I'm so sorry.
We still got 3 minutes for you to tell me how smart I am.
You are very smart,
kidding.
Bobby. Very smart. My bad. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Keep cooking. My bad.
No. I mean, that was it. That was it. I really.
We're tired of talking about this game. Damn it, already.
No. I think I think too often fans and we kind of look at just the center alone for rebounding.
Sure.
But especially whenever you're playing drop, where oftentimes the big man is kind of defending nobody. His job is really to defend the rim, not anyone. It really is incumbent upon guys like PJ and Najee and even the Smalls, even the Kyries and the Quentin Grimeses and the Hardys and the Dinwiddies to get in there and make a play.
It is. I agree.
Thank you.
You're so smart, Bobby. What would we do without you?
Well, no, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just trying to say, like, the misconception is, like, there have been a lot of games this year where fans have been like, Lively and Gafford combined for only 6 rebounds. What are they doing? Well, it's like other guys have to get in there and get their hands dirty. Like, Tim, do you remember this is back whenever the Mavs were like in 2014 or 2015, they were like still kind of competitive, but they were like the 6 seed, 7 seed every year. Rick had the rule of thumb where he wanted JJ, Devin, and I think at the time it was Darren Williams and Wesley Matthews to combine for like 10 rebounds or something. And he was like, if they can collectively get 10 rebounds, it means we're going to win the game. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Okay. Well,
and I remember a lot of stuff
I'm not
from
making that up.
I don't think you are.
It was like a throwaway thing one time that he said it.
I vaguely remember this, or maybe I'm just creating a memory of it in my head, but it sounds familiar. I do remember Rick Carlisle doing like very arbitrary, like if these 4 players do this thing combined to do this thing, then he was kind of quirky like that. But again, his point is correct. I totally get his point as well. It's an important part of things. And as much as Luka sometimes can just frustrate us because sometimes he doesn't box out either, man, he is obviously, I think we all know he is a very good rebounder, especially when he's locked into that. When he recognizes the team needs it, or, high leverage situations. So
Luka's a guy that's gotten 20 rebounds in a game. Like, he can be, when he needs to, a really, especially good defensive rebounder for this team to get things out in transition. Terrific stuff, again, from our guy Bobby Carella, breaking it down when it comes to the Mavericks and how, unfortunately, they fell tonight. The Detroit Pistons. Now, for real, we're going to break here on the DLS Mavs postgame show. When we come back, we will welcome in our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, as he gets us ready for the NBA trade deadline, as things could be heating up between a certain Sacramento player and one of the chief rivals of the Dallas Mavericks. We'll discuss that and more coming up next here on the DLS Mavs postgame show.
But first, hey, what a week it's been at DLS Sports. What a month it's been at DLS Sports. We're just racking up the subs. We're closing in on 15,000 subs already on the channel, which is just incredible. A couple months ago, we were below 10,000. I mean, it's just been zooming, and thanks to each and every one of you for hanging out with us after the wins and the losses. commenting in the chat, liking the stream, subbing to the channel, sharing the stream. It's been great. And if you want to take your support for us one step further, you can scan the QR code below or click the link in the description below, or go to alldls.com/diehard, where for less than $7 a month, you can financially support what we're doing here at DLLS Sports. But it's not just out of the kindness of your soul. You get a whole lot of stuff in return too. You get a free shirt right when you sign up of your choice. We got more than 30 shirts, including a brand new Kyrie Irving shirt in the style of NBA Jam. You also get to read our entire website, all the premium paywalled written content from people like Tim Cato on the Mavs and many others covering the Cowboys, the Stars, and the Rangers. We got some trade deadline stuff coming up. Obviously, it's going to be a huge week for the Mavs over these next 6-7 days, and Tim is going to be all over that for us on the website. You also get to join the Die Hard Discord Lounge. Pretty fun place to hang out. Pretty active community. I love being on there.
We talk pro wrestling in there too.
So they talk pro wrestling in there. Kevin and his
amateur wrestling.
No, just professional wrestling.
No, okay.
Just pro wrestling.
That's right.
And then we're also having a watch party next week as the Mavs take on the Celtics. That's actually trade deadline day, but it's going to be at Cosm. Very few tickets remain, so if you want to come hang out with us at Cosm, it's like a giant sports dome where you're watching the game on an IMAX screen. It's going to be really cool. I cannot wait to go. There are a few tickets left. Tanner will put the link in the description, and if you're a diehard, you get a 20% discount on that ticket. You don't have to be a diehard to go, but if you're a diehard, you can save a little bit of money. And then all of these people signed up to be diehards while I was in Denver. Shout out to Shane, Seth, Rhonda, Joshua, Rob, Joe, Jake, Ryan, Philip, Charles, Joshua, Roger, Dennis, and Chris.
How many Joshuas was that?
I know, a lot of
That
Joshuas.
was like 7.
There's a lot of Joshuas, but shout out to every Joshua and every non-Joshua. Thank you guys so much for your support for what we're doing here.
Do you think it was Josh Howard?
I hope so.
Josh Allen? Josh Jackson?
Josh Allen is a little.
What happened to Josh Jackson?
He got some things to worry about right now. But I'm gonna give you guys a scouting report on Cosm when we convene again on Sunday.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow for the Royal Rumble. They're gonna be showing it at Cosm, so
all right,
I'm gonna be going there
yeah.
to watch that. So I'll let you guys know how.
Okay.
Let's welcome in our National NBA Insider, Marc Stein. You can dial him up at the Stein Line on X. He is busy as we are mere days away from the NBA trade deadline. Unfortunately, we'll start here, Mark, with the Mavericks falling 117-102 tonight. A disappointing performance as they dropped their first game on this 5-game road trip.
First of all, let me thank you guys for being so flexible. I'm going to be as candid as I can. I barely watched any of the game. The phones have been very busy all night, and that's why I fully intended to be sitting right beside the Corellustrator. But I was advised this was, and I should underline and stress, non-Mavs rumblings consuming my evening. So if it was Mavs, I would have broken in far earlier than segment 4. But I greatly appreciate you guys letting me stay in my dungeon to chase the chaos. Because look, we are now, the trade deadline is 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. local time on Thursday. And I would have said once we get to this point, probably the action was going to wait till the deadline. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff percolating out there. A lot of teams trying to get stuff done. So maybe it still will go all the way to the buzzer. But, you said it, Kev, De'Aaron Fox. There's obviously been discussions between the Kings and the Spurs. There's no deal in place. Pretty sure Castle played for the Spurs tonight. So, he is still a Spur. I think people might be getting just a little bit ahead of themselves. But obviously the Kings and Spurs have talked, and the Kings are talking to a lot of people, honestly. And the Jimmy Butler situation remains front and center. And as I reported Thursday, there's been a lot of momentum in Atlanta towards a Bogdan Bogdanović trade. And, those rumbles have only increased since I wrote that Thursday. So there's a lot of stuff to track. I know your next question, you don't even have to ask it. I know you want to know what the Mavs are doing. I believe they are as active as they always are. We had that fun trivia the other night where Nico Harrison has made 14 trades in less than 4 years in charge. And so, as we've covered many times, he's been here for 3 deadlines. There's been at least 1 trade at every deadline. I think the Mavs are looking and exploring their options to see if there is anything that can be done. Unfortunately, I do not have a firm scenario to pass on to you guys. There really hasn't been much specific Mavs chatter about going after player A, B, or C. But I do think they're chasing. I do think they're active. And I also would echo what Bobby said, that the biggest move they can make is after the trade deadline when a certain number 77 comes back. That's just the reality. But will the Mavs do something? I will never say no with the way this front office has operated in the 3.5 years that we've had to study it.
Mark, you might not be able to answer this, but have you heard Dallas considers anybody at this desk available to be traded? Are we being shopped? And please say it's Bobby.
Jesus.
Wow.
It's one game. It's one game.
Jeez.
One game.
I just got a text from someone in the Mavs front office that must be watching the show. They said they only see values on the corner. They only see value on the corners of the desk. That was the text.
Well, I agree.
Damn.
Samsung Galaxies are great phones. So that's a wise.
But
person.
iPhones are even better.
All right, that's actually just a trash.
All the
opinion.
time.
See, I don't even have a phone, so I'd show mine, but I'm...
You're all untouchable, especially Tanner.
Shout out to Tanner. That's right. He is untouchable. We don't want to lose him at all. Obviously, I want to kind of ask this in the vein of the Mavericks. They have a delicate balancing act that they have to play here because obviously, as you mentioned, the best acquisition is going to be when 77 returns, but there are things that could potentially help them. What is kind of the thinking in terms of how they are going to have to balance what they have versus what they could potentially do to try to make, another run at this?
Well, look, I think you guys know the Mavs cap sheet as well, and I'm sure pretty much everyone who's watching this with us, they know the deal. Like Maxi Kleber has an expiring contract. Theoretically, you might have been able to trade him, but he just sustained an injury that required surgery. So if you're moving him to a team that really just wants the expiring contract. I mean, they know that you're likely not getting Maxi Kleber as an on-court contributor at this point this season. I mean, I suppose he could return at some point later in the season, but the other thing is, in the past, the coaching staff, has leaned on him, and he is still an important player defensively. So I don't think it's just an automatic that they would do something. But look, if they're going to make a move, that's naturally one of the contracts that is the most movable. Jaden Hardy signed an extension, and typically when you sign an extension, you have to wait 6 months before you become trade eligible. But Jaden Hardy's extension number stayed low enough that he actually is trade eligible immediately. Normally, he wouldn't have been eligible at this deadline if the extension was a higher number. But, I mean, Hardy's contract is movable. But, like I said, the Mavs, I have to tip my cap. They've done a pretty good job of keeping quiet what their intentions are. And I've certainly gotten calls from other teams who are trying to get a read on the Mavs as well and think that I can decode it for them. And I have frankly struggled to pinpoint exactly what they want to do. But between, I do think the injuries have made it a little bit tougher for them to operate. And again, there's nothing they can do in the trade market to mitigate the loss of Lively. I mean, Luka, as I've reported last Saturday before the Boston game, there is optimism that we will see him before the All-Star break. The Mavs, of course, play their last 4 games at home before the All-Star break. So Luka is on course to return in that 4-game stretch. Lively's return is much more uncertain, and it just, those are the two guys and the two things they miss more than anything right now. I mean, we all see it.
Mark, are they being quiet because they're trying to move in silence like lasagna, or are they being quiet because from a more skeptical point of view, they just don't have a lot to offer? Or are they being quiet because everything, and we've asked you this question a couple different times already, but like now that De'Aaron Fox has also entered the chat, and depending on what you believe, there could be even other kind of all-star caliber players that could be on the move in addition to him and Jimmy Butler. Is it just kind of like, are they further down the order of business, and the kinds of players that they could acquire are further down the order of operations as the rest of the league tries to figure out what's going on with the big names?
I think the Butler and Fox deals to a degree have slowed other business league-wide, because those transactions, especially the Butler trade is most likely going to require more than 2 teams. And so I think there are a lot of teams that want to see, do they have any chance of getting involved in those deals as a facilitator? And like the Toronto Raptors are a team that have been really talked about a lot over the last couple weeks. The Raptors are going to make moves at this deadline. They have multiple players on very tradable deals, like a Bruce Brown, a Chris Boucher, Kelly Olynyk, Davion Mitchell. But I think a team like the Raptors wants to wait and see, can they get involved in a Butler deal with some of those contracts before they commit to making a move elsewhere. So I do think that has slowed business around the league to some degree. And now with this Fox thing, same thing. If that becomes a 3 or 4 team deal, and also again, like I said, on one hand, it's been a much busier Friday in terms of phone calls and chatter and warnings from people, like like the reason I didn't drive down there today was like I was on the phone for a solid hour before I texted you guys. It basically was like, you better stay put, things could happen. Now in the end, and I'm knocking on wood here, nothing has happened tonight.
Well, who lied to you? We'll go take care of them.
Things could I think in general, things could happen at any time, but we are so close to the deadline now that it does typically drag on till the buzzer. I mean, that's just the reality. Once we get this close. But let's see.
Anything else percolating that we need to be aware of as we get ready to head into the weekend with the Mavericks getting back on the floor on Sunday against the Cavaliers?
No, I mean, obviously, I know you guys have covered the Dante Exum return. I mean, I don't know if you talked about this. I thought it was at least worth a mention or fascinating that it was Isaiah Stewart bobblehead night tonight in Detroit, scheduled in September, and Stewart gets to 6 flagrant foul points before February 1st and can't even play in this game tonight. Didn't help the Mavs a ton. I don't know if you guys have talked much about the All-Star situation. Maybe you guys did on the pregame show. To see the Mavs get no one. I mean, look, Luka played in less games than he missed. I don't think he really had any chance given the injury situation, but I expected to see Kyrie on the team. Like, he was the number 1 snub in the West to me. And I'm not saying this because this is a Mavericks show. I mean, like, I really thought Kyrie was going to be there. And it's a tough one because I do think Houston deserves an all-star because their first half has been so good. They have been so much better than anyone anticipated. I think you guys remember, every year at the start of the season, I asked my friends at Stratomatic, who have been doing sports simulation games since the 60s. Little Marc Stein used to sit on his floor playing Stratomatic baseball, Stratomatic basketball, Stratomatic hockey, rolling dice to play these sports simulation games and calling game, talking to myself, pretending I was an announcer. Like, that's That's the kind of sports nerd I was as a young kid. And now Stratomatic, it's all computerized. And every October, I ask them to do a computer simulation of the season. And when I asked them this October, the Stratomatic simulation said that the Houston Rockets would have the best record of any Texas team. And I thought they were crazy. And that's where we are. Now, obviously, Luka's injury has been a factor there. With a healthy Luka Doncic, it probably doesn't happen. But Houston has had an amazing first half. I do think they deserve an all-star. But when you look at their individual guys, Şengün, Jalen Green, do they really have a better individual case than Kyrie Irving? We could probably do a whole separate show on that. And, I think Kyrie was very unfortunate not to be selected. I'm really struggling to process that one.
Jason Kidd saying of Kyrie Irving not being named an all-star. This is courtesy of Mike Curtis of the Dallas Morning News. Quote, I was a little shocked he didn't make it, but there's a lot of talented people in the West that didn't make it. Luka and Kyrie are all-stars. No matter if they get in or not, you keep pushing forward. It's unfortunate, but Kai's numbers speak for themselves. There's nothing he can do but continue to keep playing good basketball, end quote. So Jason Kidd even speaking to the fact that Kyrie Irving was not named an all-star. I'm sure Clippers fans feel like Norman Powell should definitely have been an all-star as well. He's had a terrific pre-all-star season for them.
Yeah, I feel like Najee Marshall should be an all-star. So Clippers fans can deal with it.
No, I definitely understand the point. Mark, as always.
Norman Powell. I got a problem with you, Norman Powell. Norman Powell.
He's been phenomenal.
Norman Buddy.
He's been great for them. Mark, as always, we appreciate the time. We will talk to you on Sunday as the Mavericks get ready to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road. Appreciate the time.
I will try to have more and better stuff for you guys Sunday. That's my right now.
Tell us how the Mavs are going to get LeBron, Mark. You got some homework to do.
What do you want?
He wants LeBron. That's what he wants. He wants LeBron.
So Tim and I actually had a conversation on ALLDLS.com for the diehards. We're kind of in agreement. We want like a swing big, like a combo big, a guy that's can do some of the stuff that Maxey can do some of the things that Lively can do, or some combination thereof, that can give them minutes at backup 4 or at small ball 5.
Want that more than a wing defender?
I mean, ideally, you want a player like that who can also guard on the wing, but I don't know. I mean, I would assume, to my best understanding, Dallas is kind of in the same place where like both could help the team, and it's just a matter of what is actually available with what Dallas has to trade.
Yeah, I mean, they just can't go through the rest of the season with Gafford and Kyler Kelly. Like, no offense to Kyler Kelly, but like, it's Kyler Kelly and Omax your backup 5s. Like, that just can't happen. They have to get some more size in there, whether it's a stopgap guy or, I know Mavs fans throw out the name Isaiah Stewart. I don't know if that's even but like a guy that has longer term potential like that, or if it is just, guys that have 1 or 2 years left on their deal at a very low price that you can get. But they need some size, and they do need wing defense, but every team needs wing defense, which means the price of wing defenders is way up here, and they just don't have that kind of ammo. So,
hear people talk about minimum contract guys like a Duop Reith in Portland or a Yabusele in Philadelphia. Every playoff team in the league wants those guys. Like, even though contractually they're not at a high number, like, you're going to have to come up with some pretty good draft capital. Like Yabusele, okay, he's not going to command a first-round pick, but would he command 3 seconds? I could see that because, I mean, his salary, you're free.
I hate that. I hate that, Mark.
I will say, who owns Philly's pick this year? Second rounder.
I do.
You see what Yabusele did tonight?
Yeah, he was cooking. At one point, he was 5 of 7, had 14 points. Yeah, he was cooking.
He had 28.
He wanted with 28?
Yeah.
Golly,
oh
bro.
my gosh. Oh, my God.
The whole league wants those players. So, like, and we know the Mavericks have used the bulk of their draft capital for the moves they've made to this point. So it's just,
Right, but Dallas is going to be in Philadelphia 4 days from now.
Yeah.
There you
it's
go.
actually,
So why
like,
don't they just take him with them
yeah,
when
it's
they
like
leave town?
It's so easy that way, you know. What I
And
mean?
because it's like 2 days before the trade deadline, things are going to be so busy, no one will even notice.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're onto something here.
That
Yeah.
cat was out of the league for 6 years and came back and has just been fantastic for Philly. 28?
Yeah, but I never forgot about him.
He's a former Mavs
The
legend,
rest of the
actually.
league did. Jeez. Mark, we'll let you go. You got busy work to do. We appreciate your time as always, man. We'll talk to you Sunday.
All right, guys. See you in a couple days.
Bye, Mark.
That's our National NBA insider, Marc Stein, joining us here on the DLS Mavs postgame show. 28 for Yabusele?
Yeah, he does that. He's a starter.
Did the Nuggets win that game?
No. Oh, yes, the Nuggets won.
The Nuggets won. Okay.
I got
three.
news for you.
By 3
Yabu
points?
ain't gonna be a Mav.
Yeah, he's not going to be a Mav.
Yeah, no.
Oh, my God. Woo!
I
That
feel like
was a season high from him.
the more I
bet it
think about it,
was.
I was kind of like resigned for a long time that if the Mavs make a trade, it's going to be something that I don't even care about. But now I feel like if they're going to make a trade, it's going to be something that's just totally unexpected. Whether I care about it or not, we'll see. But like, I feel like if they do something, it's going to be something that we just didn't even think about. That's what I feel like. We didn't even consider.
Bogdanovich,
Maybe they'll go get another guard.
Kelly Olynyk.
You think they got enough guards? They didn't tonight. Larry Nance is back.
None of those names
Oh
intrigue
my
you?
God, no,
Bogdanovich doesn't intrigue you from Atlanta?
No.
not really. No.
Kelly
not at all.
Olynyk, that doesn't do nothing for you?
Kelly Olynyk.
That doesn't move
not
anything
really,
for
no.
you?
No, not really.
Nah,
Obi Toppin,
nah.
that do anything for you?
No.
A tiny bit more, but no.
The guy who I would want, ideally, he's got a broken finger still. Larry Nance got that
No,
broken.
he's back.
Oh, he's back?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
just got back.
He just got back? Okay.
But like
Played
now it's
3 of
kind
the
of
last 4
confusing because
games.
Jalen Johnson's going to be out for the rest of the season.
So they
I-
need him now.
Yeah, if they want to make a playoff push, they need him, and if they're wanting to pack it in, then maybe
well, they've
he could be
lost what,
had.
7 straight.
that choice might be made for them.
Yeah, it might have been made for him.
Ah, man, I don't know.
don't think-
But it's like
I-
there's no names. It's like really
hate
moving the
thinking
needle
about
for
it.
him.
I just don't
I
like
would
thinking about
agree. I think I'm with you. I think if they make a trade, it's not going to be. I don't think I'm going to like it if they make a trade.
Hmm.
That's my gut feeling. If they actually do make a trade, I don't see anything that seems realistic to me right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it's just
Like
without having to overpay.
right,
Buyout market intrigue.
and
you?
like to be
Yes.
clear, yes,
Okay.
buyout for sure.
Potentially.
Okay.
And to be clear,
But
like
they have to clear money for that.
yeah, they could still make a trade to just send
Yeah.
someone out and
Mhm.
to have the ability to sign someone on the buyout market. Obviously, they're going to know far in advance of what's likely, whether there's going to be players that'd be interested on the buyout market, stuff like that.
Mavericks fall tonight to the Detroit Pistons 117-102. Unfortunately, this happened their 2-game losing streak. The Mavericks will be back on the floor on Sunday afternoon. So mark your calendars on Sunday afternoon. The Mavericks will be back on the floor as they take on the Cleveland Cavaliers as they continue their season-long 5-game road trip. Tip-off on Sunday, will be at 2:30 p.m. Somebody's going ham outside of
Oh
our
my
studios
God.
right now in the streets, like it's Tokyo Drift Fast and Furious style. 2:30 is tip-off. The pregame show will
Bar
begin.
sounds like if you ate like a gallon of beans.
The pregame show will begin at 2 p.m. right here on DLS Sports. Again, 2 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. So you don't have to watch the Pro Bowl. You can come watch us and then watch the Mavs and watch our
People
postgame
watch
show.
the Pro Bowl? No offense.
There are still a few that watch the
All right.
Pro Bowl out there.
We'll be your second screen. We'll do a Pro Bowl watch along on Sunday instead of a Mavs Cavs pregame. What do you think?
You can do that for yourself. I'm going to be here doing the pregame show because that's
Well, you
more
banned me from Mavs games now because they keep.
Somebody is going wild outside the studios. I wish they could hear that. They could hear how ridiculous it sounds.
They might be able to hear it.
They might
They
be
could
able to
probably
hear
hear it.
There's just a dude like out the window, just like pointing at people, and none of them are acknowledging him, and it's really uncomfortable. And I'm gonna be down there in like 30 seconds. I can't wait.
Well, guess what? The Mavericks doing a lot of pointing at Cade Cunningham, and he was doing things all over them tonight. Pause. It's time to go. 2 o'clock Sunday afternoon for our pregame show right here on DLS Sports. That is our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Corella.
I'm genuinely afraid. I'm afraid. Everything is freaking me out right now.
My mind is on the Royal Rumble tomorrow. That's tomorrow. That's Tim Cato holding the microphone the way the Marc Stein would probably get upset at him at. I'm
No
your host, Kevin
laws.
Gray. it's time for us to go. Y'all be good. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you Sunday at 2:00. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.